What if the advice you've been carrying your whole life, the rules you followed, the sacrifices you made, the patience you practiced is no longer serving you after 65? Many people over 60 believe that if they just endure quietly, stay agreeable, and avoid burdening others, life will reward them with peace. But a retired professor stood in front of a small room of older adults and said something that made many of them cry. Not because it was dramatic, but because it revealed what had been missing all along. At first, no one understood why his words landed so hard. He didn't speak about regret or death. He didn't scold or comfort. He simply questioned an assumption so deeply embedded that most people had never examined it. And that assumption shaped health, money, relationships, and self-worth across an entire generation. For decades, aging was framed as decline. But in the late 20th century, researchers began challenging that idea. Psychologists like Dr. George Valent, through the Harvard study of adult development, tracked lives over more than 70 years and discovered something unexpected. Well-being in old age wasn't determined by success, intelligence, or even health alone. It was shaped by how people related to themselves over time. That insight changed aging science, but it rarely changed how seniors were taught to live. The professor's message made sense only when viewed through a strict cause and effect timeline, starting in early adulthood. In their 20s and 30s, many of today's seniors grew up in cultures that rewarded compliance. Work hard, don't complain, put family first. According to historical labor data, this generation worked longer hours with fewer protections than those who came after. Self-denial wasn't just encouraged, it was necessary. And it worked. Careers were built, families survived, stability followed. But those habits didn't stay confined to work, they became identity. The belief formed quietly, my value comes from being useful, not from being fulfilled. That belief didn't cause immediate harm. In fact, it helped people succeed. Cause led to effect, and the effect looked like responsibility. Then the 40s arrived, and changes started quietly. Energy shifted, bodies sent subtle signals. According to American health surveys, this is when chronic stress markers begin rising even in people who appear outwardly successful. Yet most ignored these signs. The same coping strategies, endurance, silence, self-sacrifice were applied again. The professor later noted that this was the moment when many people unknowingly began training themselves to disappear emotionally. After 65, a critical shift occurs that most people ignore. Roles change, careers end, children leave. The structures that once rewarded self-denial fade, but the habit remains. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that older adults who struggle most are not those with the least resources, but those who lose a sense of personal agency. The cause is clear. When usefulness disappears and self-worth was built only on usefulness, something collapses. The breaking point often arrives unexpectedly. A health scare, retirement boredom, feeling invisible in conversations. Many seniors describe a moment when they realize no one is asking what they want anymore, not because others are cruel, but because they themselves stopped expressing it long ago. The professor paused here when he spoke. He said, "This is where most people blame age, but age isn't the cause. The cause is decades of unexamined self-erasure. The fallout spreads fast. Emotionally, people feel empty or resentful without knowing why. Physically, chronic stress worsens inflammation, sleep, and immunity. The CDC reports higher rates of depression and anxiety in seniors who feel they lack control over their lives. Financially, people underspend on themselves, believing it's too late or not worth it. Lifestyle shrinks. Life gets quieter but not peaceful. So what do seniors usually try to do? They follow failed fixes based on old advice? Stay busy, stay positive, don't dwell, be grateful. While gratitude has benefits, research shows that forced positivity suppresses emotional processing. Staying busy without meaning leads to burnout, even in retirement. The professor was blunt. These strategies treat symptoms, not causes. Then he revealed the missing piece slowly. He said the most important task after 65 is not staying useful. It's reclaiming authorship of your own life. That idea alone made people cry. Because for many, it was the first time permission had been given. Science supports this. Studies on autonomy show that perceived control is one of the strongest predictors of life satisfaction in older adults. Not independence in the physical sense, but the freedom to choose how time, energy, and attention are spent. The professor shared stories of former colleagues who thrived after retirement not because they stayed productive, but because they finally allowed themselves to be honest about fatigue, honest about boundaries, honest about desire. Across millions of seniors, the same pattern repeats. Those who redefine value around self-respect age better emotionally and physically. What does this mean today? It means the advice most seniors need is not louder motivation, but quieter truth. The first direct action is to stop minimizing your needs. Research shows that expressing needs clearly reduces resentment and improves relationships at any age. The second action is to spend resources, time, money, energy on what restores you, not just what maintains appearances. Seniors who invest in personal meaning report higher well-being in national surveys. The third action is to say no without explanation. Boundaries are not rejection, they are self-recognition. Psychological studies consistently show that boundary setting improves mental health in older adults. Here's the warning, grounded in evidence. Continuing to live by rules that no longer fit increases the risk of emotional numbness and late-life depression. Silence is not strength when it costs identity. And here's the open thought to carry into the next video. If your younger self needed permission to endure, what does your older self need permission to finally claim? If this message resonated, subscribe for the next chapter where we explore how redefining purpose after retirement can change not just how long you live, but how fully you live.